Ellie Zendrian, founder of A to Z Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to branding, including events, which is an important aspect of marketing and branding. This week we have Mandy Bianchi. We're going to discuss everything from how to determine if an event makes sense for you to how to evaluate then after the fact whether the event was actually successful or not. We were fortunate enough to have met at the LaTip conference, which you masterfully handled, by the way, which made me think, you're welcome, it's well deserved, which made me think about how we need to talk about events on this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's my pleasure. Caveat to all the listeners, watchers out there, it is my first podcast, so I'm very excited, but you'll have to give me some grace. But events and brand experiences is my passion. It's also my bread and butter. I could talk about it in my sleep, so I'm super excited to share with you and everyone listening.
Do you actually talk in your sleep? Because I definitely used to do that. I would like fake call sources in my sleep in grad school. Thank God that I don't know anybody's phone number in my sleep. If anyone tells you, please, I'm curious to know. Well, so first question that I ask everybody, your favorite brand when you think of that?
Nike comes to mind just because it's so recognizable and has kind of had the same look, feel, logos, tagline that just do it forever. Plus, I'm an avid sports fan and athlete, so I've been donning the brand since I could, begging my mom to buy me the $200 pair of sneakers that were completely unnecessary that I totally see but great marketing on Nike's part, great branding. They got me. And then I just think of getting it done, whether it's starting on the JV team from the freshman team or going into tennis matches. I always wanted to wear their gear because I felt like I would perform the best. Also, Michael Jordan was a big partner for them back in the day when I was growing up. So I just associate basically greatness with Nike. And, I aim for great. So also, a lot of brands tend to evolve over the years. And I feel like they've been one to stay very true to their check mark and their just do it. I don't think it's changed since I've been alive. So I think that when you ask that question, that is kind of the brand that comes to mind. And
right, we're looking for endorsements. So Nike, she does events. They're fabulous. If you'd like to sponsor. Of course, anytime. Happy to help a girl out.
Thank you.
Good. Well, so speaking of events, so I feel like there are lots of firms that see events being put on and then think to themselves, this seems like it would be a great idea, but also it costs a lot of money. So how does a firm decide, financially speaking, an event is like the way that I ought to be going?
Well, I feel like when brands are deciding whether or not an event is in their budget, the things you want to ask are, first off, what is the goal of the event? Are we building hype? Are we rewarding loyal customers? Are we launching something new? Because, the answer to those questions depends on whether or not you should, can, where you should do it, how you should do it, all of those things. So, but also depending on where there's a will, there's a way. So when you decide that it's necessary, say the financial issue is the constraint, they're not sure if they have a budget, that is the key in working with a professional, because not only do you get better pricing, people think when you're working with an event planner, it's going to cost more money because of the service fee. But the amount that you end up saving in dollars spent with other vendors because of their relationships or time or stress or whatever, obviously for me makes it a no-brainer. For clients, it's a little bit harder to get them over the line. And unfortunately, I have found in my experience that a lot of time it's after the fact that everyone thinks, oh, this is a DIY, I can do it myself. And sure, you can. But should you is the question. And oftentimes when they're on that fence and they choose to try and take it on themselves, they come back to me like, never again. We need a planner. No. We need you. Let's start planning now for next year. So I get those questions all the time, but I do think now, especially in this day and age where it's all about experiences and, every brand is targeting Gen Z, they're not watching TV. They're going to activations. They're taking pictures. They're sharing on social media. So again, depending on the purpose.
Oh, absolutely. And I could understand that too. And so that's interesting. So the cost savings, that comes into play, whether it's a major event or whether you even think about like a wedding, for instance. You could plan your own wedding, obviously, it happens, but also you could sit back and say, yeah, you know what, whatever just happened that went wrong, It's not my problem.
Exactly. Or not even know. I work with all kinds of clients. So I work with brands and companies, and I also work with individuals that are getting married or celebrating milestones. A lot more emotions involved in those side of things typically than the brand or corporate experiences, but it's all the same. And I'm sorry, I'm totally having a brain fart, so you have to
So it
delete
just
this
seems
part.
like
But what was
it
your
totally makes
question
sense for,
ultimately?
there's a difference in experience. If you do it yourself, then you're in it and you have to sweat all the details versus if you hire
Ah,
somebody else, you get to actually experience the event and you can kind of tell for yourself if it was successful or not.
totally. Well, and that is like the difference in social. So if you're a bride, the last thing you want to do on your wedding day is pop out of the makeup room with your best friends to make sure that the flowers look how they're supposed to, or that the DJ has power, or that the lights are on. Like the millions of details that come into planning, whether it's a wedding or whatever, that's not what you should be focused on. Similarly, with a brand or a corporate meeting, my clients need to be servicing their bosses, their potential clients, depending on the thing, not again worrying about the power just went out on that side of the room. And all of those things. The other thing about event planning, which is why I love it so much, is the problem solving aspect. Because you can plan an event, which I highly recommend, for a year or 6 months. Give yourself time, but you can't predict the weather. You can't know if your lead show caller, who's the one that's got all of the cues in their mind, is going to get in a car accident on the way to the show. And then what are you going to do? So what I love about event planning is the problem solving aspect, because inevitably when you get on site, just like in anything, life happens. How are we going to fix it? How are we going to still roll? So hopefully, bride, client, corporate, whatever it is, they don't even know that there's problems going on because I solve it before then. Of course, I'm very communicative and encourage all planners to be, don't keep secrets from your clients or hide them, but only tell them if and when they need to know.
Yeah,
If you can solve it
absolutely.
without them knowing,
Well, so
that is
speak of, are
ideal.
there any particularly wacky problems that you've had to solve, or how do you even go through that process of, like you said, so you're at a live event, the power just goes out. Like, what do you even do?
Well, first of all, you have redundancies in place. So for instance, if you have a generator that you're using for an event, you don't just have one. Usually you have two. One, and unfortunately sometimes you might be paying for two and only using the one, and that is the goal. Hopefully nothing goes wrong with the one that you need, but if it does, you've got a backup in place, and you've also got a team member on site from the power company that knows how to make the switch easily. Because just the same, depending on the size and scale of the event, we've got a team of people, but I like to kind of compare us planners as the conductors of an orchestra. So we know what all the instruments do. We know how they play well together, but I'm certainly not going to go play the violin. I'm not going to go fix the power, but I know the guy who will, and I've hired
Heck
him
yeah.
because I have a relationship, or she, him or her, because I have a relationship. I know the quality of their work, and I know that they'll back me up. So in that sense, but like one specific thing I can think of where the difference of having a planner and not, and how the cost savings come into play, is I'm based out of Los Angeles. While I do events everywhere, I was working with Westfield Shopping Centers on a holiday party. And it was an outdoor holiday party outside of one of their Bloomingdale's here in Southern California. And up until like 2 days before the event, it's clear skies in the forecast. The day of the event, 100% chance of rain all day long. This never happens in Los Angeles. And sure enough, it did. And so they didn't have the budget or the time to bring in a subfloor and a tent, because for those of you that don't know, a rain contingency
Wow.
is like minimum 15, 20K to your budget if you have to bring in a tent and subfloor and all of these things. And you have to have time to do that, and we just didn't. But because of my relationship with our vendors, we were able to postpone the event by a week, putting it on the next weekend, and we didn't lose a dime for restocking fees, for all these things, because of the relationships. Now, had Westfield gone to these vendors direct, they haven't been working with them for 10 years and giving them all this business to where they would be so willing to not charge something, because obviously if they've reserved time and space for your event, they can't sell their services to other people. And so who makes up for that in a situation like this? That's where the relationships that you have come into
Absolutely.
play, and why
That's
it really
fabulous.
does matter.
Because you're right. For the average person, it just seems like the event looked beautiful and there was plenty of food and it tasted nice, and not, oh, there were like 10 things that went wrong and like the chef keeled over and nobody knows.
Exactly. And I mean, as a PR professional, I know you can relate. It's like when we do our job really well, no one even knows we exist. They kind of just think, oh, the food just appeared. And those speakers that just kept coming on and off stage to the queued up music, that just happened. It was amazing. But we know that there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes into that. Now, however, on the flip side, the minute something goes wrong, it's like, where's the planner? Who planned this? Why didn't they know about this? this, and same with the PR. Like ideally no one knows about you.
Yes.
And then when it's maybe not a great thing. Not to say it's your fault.
And I guess that's why
just,
there's the crisis communication. So just anytime that whatever it is that blew up or deal went south, this, that, the other, it's a specialized group of people usually that wind up dealing with it. But you're right. They know your phone number and they have you on speed dial.
Oh yeah. It's like, what happened?
Yes.
I haven't heard from you.
So for somebody who's never thrown an event before, what kind of like metrics do you use to even figure out if an event makes sense or if the event was successful or not?
So that is a great question. Again, I think it's similar to the first question where it depends on what the goal of the event is. So are you trying to capture leads? Are you trying to get more mentions on social media, more impressions? Are you trying to see who's going to show up to your event versus who RSVP'd for it? Because oftentimes there's a disconnect between, the 250 people that RSVP'd and the 150 that showed up. Well, why? So depending on what you're doing, there are lots of different types of events. There's also post-event surveys to see what guests thought of the experience, what you can improve from next time. And even, I don't want to give away any secrets here, but even if you, in your mind, in your client's mind, that was perfect, we're not going to do anything different next year, you want to give guests and attendees the feeling that they are a part of the experience, because that is what everything is about these days. They don't want to just go to it. They want to be a part of it. And so sending them those surveys afterwards really makes them feel like they could have an impact on next year's. Now, whether or not that's true, we'll never know.
Well, maybe they won't.
But it's good to make them feel that way. And then, of course, media coverage. Are you trying to get media? How many impressions did they get versus did they pay for it? So there's lots of different kinds of ways to measure whether or not an event was a success. It just
so then when you're working with clients, do you, like in the introductory meeting, do you sort of set out look, this is the way that I see the event and these are what I think the goals are, or how do you guys go about establishing what the event is going to be like?
It depends on in what part of the process a client brings me on. Oftentimes they've already got their annual sales meeting in place and they've kind of already got their key objectives. They just need someone to help actually execute it. They might need help finding venues, finding all of the entertainment and the DJ and the MC and the right lighting company and video, et cetera, all the things that go into an event. Or they might just come to me with a goal in mind. We want to do something that's going to go viral. And so I will help them brainstorm, well, what type of event is that going to be? Is that a pop-up experience? Where should you do that? Should you do that, for instance, at like a Westfield shopping center where they've got millions of foot traffic a day? Well, yes, you should. If you have the budget to be at Westfield, you should be there.
So have you had clients who say, because I feel like sometimes in PR we get the same thing. My second cousin on my husband's side once removed, they do events or they do PR, they know marketing, they could just do it for me versus somebody who's really trained in the profession.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you knew the answer to that one, especially both sides. I'll talk about the social side first, but brides, for instance. A bride, not all, but most, may have had their Pinterest wedding board, for the last 20 years, since they were 10 years old. So they think, okay, I already know what cake I want. I know the colors. I can do it. I can save X amount of money. And then after the fact, they're like, God, I would never do that again. But they don't know until they do it. So I try to catch them, before then. At minimum, at least for weddings, you need someone day of. Bottom line, you could plan the heck out of it. Again, if the power goes out, if the catering's running long, if the flowers aren't where they're supposed to be, the last thing you want to do is worry about that. You have 4 to 6 hours with the most important people in your life that may never be in a room again together. You should be focused on them and let the professional do that. Same, as it goes for brands. Again, a lot of them, PR professionals, marketing professionals, communicating with people and executing are very different things. So executing events, hiring a pro ensures that seamless guest experience, brand alignment, crisis management, to your point, ROI tracking on the back end versus kind of like the hidden cost of not hiring an expert, which could be missed opportunities, subpar results, stressed teams. So I get it all the time, more so I would say in the social, but definitely in the corporate too. I always say if you can plan an event yourself, sure. Should you?
Well, I'm sure similarly.
That is the question.
Similarly, I'm sure it kind of depends the same way. Could I fix my house? Arguably. If anybody knows me, should I fix my house? Heck no.
Absolutely. Might it take you 5 times as long, cost you way more in supplies? Because again, similar, you don't know the right stores to go to get what you need. in bulk pricing, whereas a professional planner does. And just the time, most people that have events, that is not their job. They have a day job. And so depending on how many hours
Right.
you're miraculously able to fit in a day, you need someone else that can do that because it's a fraction of the time. And again, while you might be paying for a service, the amount that you'll save in all of the budget items, it's pretty much a wash. And then you have, half the
I love
stress,
that.
more success, a million other
I love that.
things.
Half the stress and
Hire a
more
professional.
success. I hope that you branded that. Yes,
Oh, I
please.
haven't,
Absolutely.
but I'm going to type that
So
up next.
when people are thinking about
It's my new
types of
tagline.
events, so you already said, there's the annual holiday party or sales party or whatever it is. What other events are you seeing just traditionally done, or any kind of new events that you're starting to see?
There's the same old tried and true traditional events when it comes to corporate. You have your annual sales meetings where you get the team pumped up and ready to go sell the product. You have your galas and your fundraisers where each year, you're trying to raise a certain amount of money. So you got to put on a pretty show so that you can charge the hefty ticket price so you can raise the funds for your thing. It's not that new of a term, but brand activations. So it's still an event. You're still planning an event for people to come to and engage with, but it's no longer called that. It's called a brand activation. So where brands come in to say like a Westfield and they'll do a pop-up cart, a beauty brand will come and pass out their latest lip gloss with a coupon and have a cart set up in the middle of a shopping center. So on the outside, that might not look like an event, but you still have to coordinate the venue, the product, the timeline, the background music, the security, the parking, so it is still an event, but it's called a brand activation now. And they also are referred to pop-ups or experiential events. It's all one and the same, going back to that point of people wanting to be a part of it, not just seeing it on a billboard, but I want to touch and feel the lip gloss. I want to see how it looks on my skin. And then, of course, give me a discount so I can go in the store next door and buy it. Leadership retreats, wellness, obviously, is very big these days. So wellness retreats, VIP or loyalty experiences, treating those people that shop your brand, giving them a little bit more. Incentive trips those are one of my favorite things to plan, because then you have to go to a destination in advance. Say a company has a president's club and they are rewarding their top 100 salespeople with this amazing trip to the Bahamas. Someone's got to go out and scout that first. I got to make sure that the zip line works. I got to make sure that this yacht is an experience that my clients are paying for. So, that's just a few of the types of corporate events there are. And then, of course, on the social side, weddings, bar mitzvahs, anniversaries, showers, birthdays, any milestone you can possibly imagine. Divorce parties nowadays.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it's a good thing.
Well, speak to that. So it must be horrible. I hope that you actually like zip lining and whatnot versus like, oh gosh, I have to do this for the job. Thank you. Good.
Love to travel, all of that good stuff. So yes, I am very fortunate. I started my career in entertainment on the corporate side, not having any kind of idea that I was going to go into events. Of course, always being the event planner of the family. I'm the one on Thanksgiving that had, all right, here's what time we got to put this in and this so that it all comes out. And so I did it personally, but I never thought professionally. And then it just kind of fell into place. And so, but my joy of thinking and problem solving and figuring things out. And I guess maybe I have like a little bit of a hero complex or something. I'm trying to save the day for everybody, but I really like it. And I like to make people feel good. So when they know that they have someone that they can rely on, that makes them look good in front of their boss or on their wedding day or whatever it is, I'm very fortunate.
That means that you never work a day in your life. So that's great. Good. Well, so in this shift to experiences, when do you think that happened? And is that going away? Is that just like here?
Oh yeah, that's getting bigger and bigger. Brands are activating on an all-time high, because also you could do a small activation. So for instance, if you were to have a cart in a very popular, heavily trafficked mall, you could probably get that whole event done for, including the venue fee, maybe let's call it 20 to 50,000. If you remember back in the day, like to get a commercial on television or on the radio, you're spending way more than that. The metrics of it's really off. Like, yes, so many people might have been tuning into your show, but were they watching the commercials or did they go to the bathroom during the commercial break? Experiences, it is the way of the future. I think marketing budgets are going away from traditional advertising, and this is the new way. And then of course, with TikTok trends, any brand that's targeting someone below the age of 35, this experiences is here to stay. And it makes sense because you can do so much more with your money than you could traditionally to get a 30-second spot on TV. And then bring in a great PR agency, and you get that as well. You get the ad mentions, the newspaper mentions. Maybe you can get, here it's KTLA, it's our big news, to come out and cover your event, depending on what else is going on that day. So I definitely think they're here to stay. I think that traditionally, when times were tough, marketing budgets tended to be the first ones to get slashed. But I hope and I feel that that is changing because because ultimately you have to keep reminding people of your brand, of your product, and you have to really bring them into your world these days. And it's really hard to do that if it's not a three-dimensional event where you can touch, you can smell, you can feel. All of
You're
those
absolutely
things.
right.
Really,
I mean, I think a lot of
whether
it's brands or people have noticed, you turn off that sales funnel and you feel like I have all this client loyalty built up, it'll be fine. But steadily it erodes and people forget, and if you're not in people's faces, unfortunately, you're forgotten. So absolutely, you're totally right. So we're both females. Do you feel like the event space is female driven, or how would you like to see it grow in a way that supports more women?
I actually do think that this is a business where I would say it's definitely female dominated, at least in the planner agency side. Now, on the venue side, especially if you're getting to bigger, like I do a lot of stuff in sports and entertainment, and that's where you get into a very masculine boardroom where you might be the only woman in the room. But no, because and stereotypes are saying they come about for a reason. Not necessarily they're all true, but women are great at multitasking. And so in events specifically, there's so many balls in the air at one time that cannot be dropped. Our brains are just, I think, more wired to handle it. I tend to see men in the field not able to handle the stress as much. And the thing is, it starts at the top. So if the leader is calm under pressure, so too will the team be. And the opposite is true. But it's interesting. A lot of the times I see my job as kind of like, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but as kind of like a professional babysitter sometimes too, because you can plan all that you want and then you get on site and you have the audio visual team waiting on the power team. And so is the lighting, but everything has to happen in a certain order, but they don't want to talk to one another. So then I have to come in and I have to say, oh, Mr. Lighting Guy, well, did you talk to the power? Oh, you haven't? Let's come over and have a conversation. And I find that I have to facilitate that a lot more with my vendors, which do typically happen to be more men. But as far as like people in my position, it's a lot of women. I love that. I love women. Yay, us. I'm all about expanding the opportunities for us. But I think that I am very lucky in that.
Good. Well, and it suits you quite well. So sure. Absolutely. You're welcome. So for anybody who's thinking about doing an event, how do you find that event planner that suits you? Is this like you need to find the person who jives with you personally? You sit in the meeting and you're like, gosh, I want to like go have a beer with Mandy, or is it I've seen her past events and I love them? How do you pick somebody?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think at first it's going to start out with what you can find out about them, whether they've come, if someone comes referred, that's always the best because that means someone else is telling you that they've already had a good experience with this person, not to ensure that you will, but it's just a better chance. But of course, nowadays, the first thing people are going to go do, especially in my line of work, is very visual. They're going to go to my Instagram. They're going to go to my website. They're going to go to my LinkedIn and check my credentials to see, like, is she really who she says? Can they really do what they say? I mean, she's just one woman. How can she do all these things? But I'm not just one woman. I'm a team of people depending on what the needs are. I have designers, I have fabricators, and then of course all these vendors that I partner with and have for so long. And check them out. Do they have a website? What are their credentials? What brands have they worked with? But secondly, once you've established that, I think most importantly is, do you vibe? It's all about the vibe because events are very intensive. You're going to be working with these people very closely, depending on how much of a lead up you have for a long time. So you want to make sure that you enjoy having coffee with this person. And I think that that is a huge, huge thing in this business. For me personally, 98% of my business is word of mouth referrals, whether it's repeat customers or them referring other people. I think they're equally as important. You know, you need to be good at what you do and have the background to back it up. But if you're not, if I have two event planners that can both do the job, of course I'm going to want to work with the one I enjoy spending time with. So yeah, I highly encourage people, once they found or got a few recommendations, to have a call like this, get on a Zoom, not just a phone call, because, even, the way people sit, their mannerisms, all of that you can't tell on a phone call. In person, I advocate for the best, but this makes it easy depending on schedules and locations. I do events all over the world, really. So if I've got a client like you on the East Coast or in Mexico or something, clearly an in-person meeting isn't as likely to happen. But definitely make sure you like who you're working with, because you're going to be spending a lot of time together, and you're going to be in stressful situations, which also brings out a different side of people. So if you're already clashing when you're just talking about like the colors of the linens, imagine when something goes wrong,
Yeah.
So,
You know what, actually, as you were saying all that, it made me think, so I don't know entirely how people pick their public relations professionals, but I can imagine some of it is that reputation and you worked for XYZ, so that makes you fabulous. But really, from my standpoint, the clients that I vibe with the most are the ones that I'm going to give 110% to, because I just love working with you. Of course, I'm going to stay up a little bit later. I'm going to do this extra thing for you that I normally wouldn't have done. So absolutely, it's a great combination of both.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, our contracts are very clear, and it's based on X amount of hours of pre-production and this amount of time on site. And for those clients that I love and are repeat and are great to me, I'm not going to let them know that I went 10 hours over on the pre-production and nickel and dime. Whereas the client that's not, better believe that I'm going to charge for every second.
Well, thank you so much for all this.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. This was a great chat.
Of course.
And thanks for.
But you're fabulous. And anyone, if you're looking for an event, this was a wealth of advice, a lot of things that I didn't know. So thank you for sharing all that information.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.